Hi, Eli. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you very much for the time. Thanks for joining us. Can you give me one deduction you're considering getting rid of, or one thing that's sacrosanct and you won't get rid of?
Well, what we're going to do is bring down the rates for everybody.
Charitable deductions, do you think, or the mortgage deduction, or are you not talking specifics yet?
You could do something, for instance, as an option. You could say everybody's going to get up to a $17,000 deduction.
But isn't the deficit in part there and as large as it is because of the two wars that you voted to authorize and fund, and also because of the Bush tax cuts, which you and Republicans in Congress have pushed to extend? Isn't that also part of the equation?
It's really the economy that has given us the deficit we have and the massive deficit spending.
I want to ask you about tonight. Do you have one speech prepared or two?
Well, you know what? You always have two speeches prepared because you can't take anything for granted.
We got more viewer questions about jobs than any other topic. Democrats and Republicans, they both understand that that's the issue the American people want them to focus on right now.
Interesting mix of primetime speakers. Of course, there's Ann Romney, Mitt's wife, who will be giving a very warm speech looking to soften her husband's edges, and she'll be followed by New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, a round guy, sure, but a guy with nothing but hard edges.
Former president is closing things out with a bang, riffing now about American politics these days and offering a stirring endorsement of President Obama, answering the GOP's argument last week. Clinton here saying that this country is indeed better off than it was 4 years ago. Huge lines in Virginia and Florida, a couple of swing states where turnout is on the higher end, so we're still watching those. But here's the map. Every swing state, with the exception of North Carolina, is going for the president. And if you add up the math, Ohio and Colorado puts him over 270 electoral votes. So they're partying in Chicago, and there it is, Fox 31 projecting that Barack Obama has won a second term as president of the United States. South Dakota Senator John Thune and Colorado Congressman Cory Gardner are both big supporters of Mitt Romney, always talking these days about jobs. They both support a tax credit for wind energy providers that supports thousands of jobs right here in Colorado. Funny thing is, Romney himself does not.
Another business owner who's been around a long time talking about hard times.
A lot of our customers, many customers, closed their doors.
Rio Grande's Bruce Peterson speaking Monday on behalf of Mitt Romney's campaign.
We need to see a business-friendly leader in the White House.
Joined by South Dakota Senator John Thune.
It has become harder for small businesses in this country to create jobs, not easier.
Pinning the blame for the slow recovery on the president and praising Romney.
Colorado is poised to benefit from the energy policies that Mitt Romney will put in place.
But just last week, Romney came out against extending a tax credit for wind providers. Festus says that policy would cost them 1,000 Colorado jobs.
We need to look at what we can do to phase out federal support.
Thune tells me he agrees with Romney that the wind industry has to stand on its own. Environmentalists, meanwhile, are appalled.
$4 billion a year of subsidies go to big oil. Mitt Romney supports those subsidies.
Back in February, Thune signed this letter urging the renewal of the wind production tax credit.
You still believe what's written in this letter? I mean, you're still supporting the PTC.
I've supported the wind production tax credit in the past because it's been good in terms of my state's economy and some of the jobs that come with it.
So, what about now?
I don't think you can go overnight and say, okay, we're going to take this away today, but I think the goal ought to be getting away from having the federal government pick winners and losers when it comes to what types of energy we support.
Yuma Congressman Cory Gardner also at the press conference today. He too supports the wind PTC along with every other member of our Colorado congressional delegation except Doug Lamborn. I'm Eli Stokols, Fox 31, Denver. 10 years ago, I just started journalism school here at Columbia University in New York when the attacks on the Twin Towers downtown forever changed not only this city, but the education that I was about to get.
I couldn't tell you what was going through my mind then. It's like a blur.
This was about 6 months after 9/11. Firefighter Mike Bonner carrying the coffin of one of his own. Right after 9/11, two classmates and I started shooting video for a documentary, Ladder 25, the story of a grieving firehouse that had lost 7 men at Ground Zero.
We showed how the rest of the guys went through 7 memorial services and tried to get back to work, only to go through another round of funerals once the remains were finally identified.
It's been one long week, and now we're getting to the funerals.
That's where our documentary ended, but Mike Bonner's story continued, and after almost 10 years, I wanted to know the rest of it.
Been a while. How are you?
Good seeing you.
Great seeing you.
But coming back to Ladder 25 on New York's Upper West Side, I found a much different place.
Is it weird being back here? I mean, it's funny for me. It's been 10 years for me, but
It's spooky sometimes.
how so?
None of the guys I worked with are here anymore.
The names of the 7 men from Ladder 25 who died after being crushed beneath the South Tower are still here, captured in a photo of the riding list from that day and etched in marble where the riding list used to hang. But almost all of these names, the new men of Ladder 25, have changed.
Well, we lost 7, probably 12 retired and 3 got promoted.
3 years after 9/11, Bonner was promoted to lieutenant and sent to Ladder 61 in the Bronx. But tragedy found him there too.
I was in a better position than most guys because I had already gone through losing a brother.
A firefighter from Bonner's new house, Chris Engeldrum, had enlisted in the National Guard after 9/11, after the FDNY lost 343 firefighters at Ground Zero, only to be killed himself in Iraq.
They considered Engeldrum from 61 344.
An indirect casualty of 9/11.
It's still hard, it's very hard. He's a great guy. I think a lot of guys have just knocked him off their feet for a long time.
Around the same time, Ladder 25 Stephen Johnson got sick suddenly and died.
He lost a ton of weight in a hurry, and they diagnosed him with black lung disease, which as far as I know is like a coal miner's disease. So they attributed his death to working at Ground Zero.
Just as it did during the days of our documentary, Mike's pain still smolders, sometimes flaring up. A fire that never goes out.
Sometimes it feels like it was a year ago, and other times it feels like it's 10 years. You lose a piece of your family, it's tough. If you lost anybody in your family, you don't ever get over it. Pain subsides a little, but you don't get over it.
10 years ago, Mike told us about the strain his stress was taking on his marriage. A marriage, he tells me now, that's gotten stronger.
God bless her for sticking by me, because I'm sure I wasn't the greatest guy to live with at the time. And we were trying to have a child, and it took us another 3 years before I could relax enough to actually have a child.
The darkest days had hit after the first Ladder 25 firefighter was identified at Ground Zero, a place that Mike hadn't seen in more than 9 years. Until this week.
Last time you were here was...
I carried Joe Ravelli's body out of the pit.
He still remembers it clearly.
January 1st is New Year's Day, 2002.
Coming out of the rubble, carrying Joe Ravelli's remains.
That's tough. I don't want to have to do that again.
Have you tried to not come down here? Have you consciously tried to stay away, or has it just been one of those?
I didn't need to come down.
Yeah.
The closure is pretty much done.
Now he may be more numb to the pain, but it was here in the wreckage that New Year's Day that something changed for Mike Bonner.
I had 11 years here before that happened, and it's the best 11 years of my life.
Something, a love for the job, an innocence that he knows now he will never have again.
I can't tell you why. It just wasn't the same.